Shalom friend, and welcome to Parashat Vayeshev. Vayeshev is a Hebrew word that means and he settled, and this Torah portion is found in Genesis chapter 37 verse 1 up to 40 verse 23. Today we are looking at Genesis chapter 40 from the perspective of a Jewish method of study known as the law of first mention, rooted in the Jewish tradition of meticulously analyzing the context of a word or a theme's initial occurrence in the Torah. According to this principle, the first time a particular word, concept, or doctrine appears in Scripture, it establishes a foundational pattern or tone for its meaning and usage throughout the rest of the Bible. Today we are looking at the law of first mention in the concept of Joseph's interpretation of dreams in the Bible. Yes, Joseph's first dream in the Bible was about sheaves of grain in Genesis chapter 37 verse 5 up to 11. But the very first interpretation of a dream that he gave was to Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and his chief baker while he was in prison. This happened in this week's Torah portion in Genesis chapter 40, which reads as follows. Now, it was after these things that the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt offended their master, the king of Egypt. Pharaoh was angry with his two officials, with the chief of the cupbearers and with the chief of the bakers. So he put them in custody of the house of the commander of the bodyguards in the prison, the place where Joseph was confined. The commander of the bodyguards assigned Joseph to be with them, and he served as their personal servant. They were in custody for some time. Then the two of them each dreamed a dream on the same night. The dream of each man, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were confined in the prison, each had its own interpretation. When Joseph came to them in the morning, he observed them, and there they were, looking miserable. So he asked Pharaoh's officials who were with him in the custody of the house of his master, saying, "Why are your faces so sad today?" They said to him, "We dreamed a dream, and there's no one who can interpret it." Then Joseph said to them, "Don't interpretations belong to God? Please tell me." So the chief of the cupbearers told his dream to Joseph, saying to him, "In my dream, suddenly there was a vine in front of me. On the vine there were 3 branches, and as it was budding, its blossoms came out, its clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes, pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and put the cup in Pharaoh's palm." This is the interpretation. Joseph said to him, "The 3 branches, they are 3 days. In another 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your position. Then you will put Pharaoh's cup in his hand, just as you used to do before, when you were his cupbearer. But if you remember me, that I was with you when it goes well with you, please show me kindness and mention me to Pharaoh and get me out of this house. For I was forcibly kidnapped from the land of the Hebrews, and even here I have done nothing at all that they should put me in this pit." When the chief of the bakers saw that the interpretation was good, he said to Joseph, "I also was in my dream. Expectantly, there were 3 baskets of white bread on my head. In the top basket was food for Pharaoh, all kinds of baked goods, but the birds were eating them from the basket on my head." Then Joseph answered and said, "This is its interpretation. The 3 baskets, they are 3 days. In another 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head off you and will hang you on a tree. Then the birds will eat your flesh off of you." Then it happened on the 3rd day, Pharaoh's birthday, that he held a banquet for all his servants. He lifted up the head of the chief of the cupbearers and the head of the chief of the bakers among his servants. He restored the chief of the cupbearers as his cupbearer, And he put the cup on the palm of Pharaoh's hand. But the chief of the bakers he hung. It was just as Joseph has interpreted for them. Yet the chief of the cupbearers did not remember Joseph. Indeed, he forgot him. In Genesis chapter 40, verse 20 to 23, Pharaoh lifted up the heads of both men, but one he restored him to his job, and yet the other he hung him on a tree. So here we have lifting up of the head, meaning two different things. According to the Torah scholars, in the case of the cupbearer, the idiom lift up your head means to count, as in Exodus chapter 30, verse 12. The sense being that when Pharaoh will assemble his other servants to wait upon him during a meal, he would also count the cupbearer among them. In the case of the chief baker, the term lift up the head is used in the literal sense, meaning that his head would be beheaded. These interpretations were to the point, each exactly as Joseph had interpreted it. So in terms of the law of first mention, the account of Pharaoh's cupbearer and chief baker is the first time that Joseph's ability to interpret dreams is explicitly demonstrated and recorded in the Torah. This does three things. It establishes Joseph's divine gift as one who could interpret dreams. It validates his role. And it establishes a thematic foundation as follows. Establishes Joseph's divine gift to interpret dreams. It is clearly a direct gift from God because Joseph himself said that interpretations belong to God. Genesis 40 verse 8. This sets a precedent for Joseph's role as a divinely inspired interpreter of dreams throughout later chapters. Number 2, it validates Joseph's role. This first interpretation is like a testing ground of Joseph's ability. It shows that his gift is accurate and reliable, building credibility that leads to the more significant interpretive role that he played in Pharaoh's 2-in-1 dreams later in Genesis chapter 41. And the third, thematic foundation. The first mention connects dreams and divine revelation to Joseph's identity and God's providential plan. It frames dreams as meaningful and significant, not random or trivial, highlighting their role as a medium through which God can communicate with people. This thematic foundation was still relevant thousands of years later when, near the time of the birth of Yeshua, Joseph, Mary's husband, was contemplating on divorcing her privately before he understood that Yeshua is the Son of God. Then an angel of God appeared to him in a dream as follows. Matthew chapter 1 verse 20 and 21. But while he considered these things, behold, an angel of Adonai appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Miriam as your wife, for the child conceived in her is from the Ruach HaKodesh. She will give birth to a son, and you shall call his name Yeshua, for he will save his people from their sins. From the law of first mention's perspective, Joseph's interpretation of dreams in Genesis chapter 40 is foundational. It introduces, it confirms, and it establishes the significance of his gift that later on plays a crucial part in the unfolding story of Joseph's rise to being the viceroy of Egypt and of God's divine providence and sovereignty. So friend, this was just a taste of the law of first mention. Thank you so much for watching, and Shabbat Shalom.